Hello and welcome to the Noise Brigade. We're going to do our WrestleMania recap. This will be, well, I guess we'll start where the fucking hell that sucked. All right, let me let me try that again.
You don't want to keep on going?
I yeah, you know what? Screw it. Let's keep on going.
All right.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm Bobby. You're Tom.
Hello again.
Let's get moving on night one, and it goes about. This is probably the best open that we could have, considering how
It's
the
actually great considering that we're talking about WrestleMania. So,
so both we had some Google documents going. It's been our kind of way that we roll with this stuff lately, and we were typing notes back and forth. And the first thing I have on here is, "Good God, was the King terrible on the pre-show?"
yeah, and I didn't see as much of it as you did, but the little bit that I caught, I've always liked Jerry Lawler. I got to meet him once, got a picture with him. So I have you know, an appreciation for him. I just always liked him, but his humor is not dating very well at all. And
No, no, and I love the King. The King's great, but Jesus, I'm trying to remember what was the one he was like. Yeah, if Braun Strowman was a flower, he'd be a blooming idiot or something like that.
yeah, it's not good. That's his sense of humor,
Right.
just not playing well right now. Especially maybe it's just because we've heard it for so many years. Same old shtick, and after a while, it's gonna end up running its course. And I hate to say that because I really love Lawler.
Right.
I've always been a fan of him. Back to the Jr. and Lawler days, just announcing. I thought they were great. And yeah, now we have whatever we have now with him, and it's a shame.
It is, but the funniest thing to me was, I mean, obviously not his jokes, but the lightning delay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny. We have what basically they mention it. It's what 13 months and or yeah, 13 months and a day, and that was the last time that they had like an actual audience. And of course, the show they have is outside, and
Right.
it was storming.
Yeah. So one thing that went well with the opening was BB Rexa did an awesome job of America the Beautiful. And I mean, she's gorgeous. Her voice is gorgeous. She did an outstanding job. I was super happy with how she did that.
Yeah, that was really good, and the guitarist too. And I didn't catch her name, but um,
Ashlyn. Oh no, yeah, the guitarist that was with BB Rexa. Yeah.
mhm.
Oh yeah, dude, she ripped. It was great.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was a good open.
Yeah. So which we're gonna try and fire through this since there was two nights, and we've got copious notes here. So let's get into the first match. First match was Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. So I was very surprised with this one.
Yeah, it's strange. First of all, I was surprised they even opened up with this WWE Championship match. I thought that was a bit odd, but I understand it because they kind of bookended it, obviously, with night two with being the Universal title.
Right.
Um, but you have a note here, and yeah, it was pretty much a clean win.
Yeah, I mean, you had you know, MVP kind of was a little bit involved, but not much at all. And honestly, I really expected the Hurt Business breaking up a few weeks ago on Raw to be a swerve and to be kind of like, so Drew McIntyre wasn't thinking about Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. Easy for me to say. Um, and I figured they'd come out at some point and they'd end up helping Lashley get the win. But no, it was pretty on the nose. It was pretty on the level, and it was a good match. I just wasn't expecting it to go the way it went.
No, no, and they're both obviously very solid workers, and they have both been for a very long time. I think those two are honestly peas in a pod with the amount of work ethic, the fact that I could see that they do have that leadership style, especially in the locker room. So they work very well together. And if you hear that in the background, it's my cat meowing. Um, but no, good match, and I was surprised too. It was It was a clean win.
Yeah. So next up, we had the women's tag matches, and it was a series of tag matches with basically, as you won, you went on and faced a new team. And it started off, it was the Riot Squad versus um, Billy Kay and Carmella. And for the most part, the matches were really good. There were some awkward botches here and there, but by and large, everything was pretty well done. I would have liked to see the Riot Squad win, but they look pretty. They looked strong. You know.
Yeah, that was funny. They threw together a lot of those teams in that. At least to me, they did. I know they've all worked together, and I'll give them credit on, the match quality in that whole tag team turmoil, as they call it, was good. I don't know that, and I hate to be this way. I don't know that that's WrestleMania worthy. It's fun to watch, but they throw that stuff out on Raw and SmackDown so often that it was just kind of like, oh, they're doing this again. It's just it was a shame they didn't have like a good solid build, to what we had, and we'll talk about this, later, with the uh, title match on night two. I would have loved to have seen like a real huge build for that, because that was a good, you know, uh, Tamina and Natalia against Jackson Baszler. I think that was a solid four for that. But the turmoil itself is kind of like, I take it or leave it.
Yeah, and I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about a couple things. The first thing being Mandy Rose slipping and falling on the way down to the ring, which thankfully she wasn't injured, at least that we know. She was able to go into the match and do that going forward. Um, but there was a couple times that the screen had to go black there.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't even catch it. You did, and because I was watching it so fast, but uh, the TV that I was watching on, I was actually in a hotel in Huntington, West Virginia, and the TV was just not the nicest of quality. And but I was just hooked my laptop up to it, and it just went black, and I thought, oh well, maybe there's some issue there. But that wasn't the reason. There was no issue, was there?
Well, there. I mean, there was an issue.
But
I
not
mean,
tech, but not a tech issue.
no, it was not a technical issue. It was a more of a wardrobe malfunction on Dana Brooks' part. It happened a couple times, so um, just a little extra there. But overall, I mean that is neither here nor there with the quality of the wrestling. The wrestling was good. Um, I think that the Tamina and Natalia team is really good. It's a strong team. I'm excited to see where they take them going forward. Hopefully, they actually treat these tag teams. They really have three teams coming out of this that looked strong and that they could build off of in the
Right.
division. And that's the Riot Squad, obviously, Tamina and Natalia, and then Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. And honestly, what I would really love for them to do is just put the Iconics back together. Put Billy Kay and Peyton Royce back together. Let them be a tag team. They're good that way. Let's stop screwing around. Let's put them together the way where they should be and move forward and have a good working women's tag team division.
Yeah. Because right now, and I really like the concept that they had, where it could jump back and forth between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, but it doesn't work when there's no one really working together with any kind of frequency. You don't have any opponents built,
Right.
to the level of the champions. It's
Yeah,
tough.
absolutely. So I guess after that was Cesaro versus Rollins, and you know we knew unless somehow like the roof caved in, these guys were going to put on a good match. Um, there was no surprise there, none whatsoever. And I mean, Cesaro is one of my favorites on the roster. I knew he was going to kill it.
Yeah, and you wrote this, and I feel the same exact way. Uh, I am super glad he got his win there, and this didn't even dawn on me because they mentioned a couple times that he had never had a singles match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, he was with. I'm pretty sure he and Sheamus had a match as the Bar. Um, but yeah, he's always been with the League of Nations or with oh, who was he with? But he's always been in tag teams or multi-man matches and stuff like that. The Andre the Giant Rumble, all that stuff. But he's never had his singles match, and it's amazing to think somebody as talented as him hasn't been able to get that WrestleMania moment until now. But now he has it, and hopefully this is just the beginning for him. Um, and it goes to Vince has his guys, and Vince wants certain things, and maybe he doesn't meet all of them, but the guy can go. That's the bottom
Yes,
line.
yeah,
And
yeah,
from the indies all the way to now, he's just been a great wrestler, and he should be able to hopefully continue to show the world why he deserves to be there.
exactly. And I'm glad that he was able to have that match with Rollins. Who's has a ton of WrestleMania moments in himself, and it was nice for. And I know Rollins really didn't have any head in any of the title pictures this time around, but it was nice for him to work with Cesaro and then let Cesaro go over. Not saying that that's Rollins' choice necessarily, but it's good to see Cesaro get that win.
Right. And I got to give Rollins credit. He's not a guy that I'm a huge fan of, and it's not even his wrestling. I think his wrestling is good. It's just his Twitter presence. He's a guy where where a victim of social media where I just don't really like what he has to say on Twitter, and so I don't really dig his character anymore. I think his character is good. I don't like seeing him on my TV, which is what he's supposed to do. So good for
Right.
him for being good at his job. But man, he had me cracking up during the backstage segment when he was calling Cesaro Zazaro or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's I'm not his number one fan by any stretch, and I really never have been. But I do like his in-ring work and his personality. I can take it or leave it. But he's a A plus caliber in the ring, and I don't think anyone can take that away from him. And he has been for many years at this point too, even prior to his time in the WWE. So
Right. Now, speaking of backstage segments, we had one with the Dirty Dogs. So, for those of you who don't know, Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, um, and we had the notes in here about his hair, man. Like he had these like studs in his hair, like his head was part of a leather jacket, and he had these studs coming out of it. And you had written someone had fun with the bedazzler, and that's pretty much what it looked like. I mean, I don't
yeah,
know
it
how
looked
else to
exactly
describe
like that. It just looked like someone got a hold of that bedazzling gun and just all over his head. I don't know. It was weird.
And then speaking of the backstage segments, New Day had reunited backstage at one point during the rain delay, and man, Big E had me ready to run through a wall. He was on fire, and just the promos. Those guys, their mic work has always been top notch, and it's not going to change. It's always going to be, and I just love anytime that they're on the screen together. You've got my attention, and so I loved seeing that. And then that actually brings us into our next match.
Yeah, New Day versus Styles and Omos.
The giant Omos.
7'3".
Dude, and he looks every freaking bit of it. Like, good God. I mean, and I put in here what is he wearing? It didn't matter what he was wearing because the dude just walks in the ring and he's just towering over people. Just
Eh,
absolutely ridiculous. Like,
exactly. And
and
he's just big. He's built. He was. It almost felt like he was not as wide as he was tall, but put him when he was standing next to Styles. I was like, Styles looks like a kid, and Styles is not small.
No, no. And that's one of the things, this was a good match. This was, some of the notes we had in here, you know, they Woods, you put in here, Xavier Woods said to AJ Styles at one point, "You're not a tag team wrestler. We're cutting the ring in half." And that's exactly what they did. And it was slightly heelish tactics that were going on by the New Day. They had cut off the ring. They were keeping Styles on their side, and they weren't letting him get to Omos to make the tag. And once they did slip up, I mean, you could see the fear in their eyes.
Oh yeah, it was over. I mean, the minute that they did, that guy, yeah, he's agile, he's mobile, he's big, he's strong. Um, I don't, you know, he. It's funny. Vince always has his thing for the monsters, you know, and I think that's why over the years you saw, you know, Hogan getting fed the monsters because he always, you know, whether it was, you know, the one man gang or, you know, earthquake or those things. In 2021, one man gang and earthquake look like almost, you know, the times have changed. I would be generally petrified. You know, that guy is legit. Uh, you know, it's wow. I was impressed. Um, I don't even care what he's like on the mic. I don't need to know because he says it with just by showing up.
Right, right. There's no, you know, he could just come out there and just not say anything for the next 3 years and just walk out, crush people, and walk back out of the ring.
Exactly. I don't know. I didn't know at first because you know obviously like you alluded to, you know the New Day had and Styles were in there for what like 85% of the match because Styles could never get that tag in because the New Day's you know basically cut the ring in half. And wow, like you put in here, he's like Bane, and yeah, I mean that's exactly like he is. It lets you kind of go back to watching wrestling through the eyes of when you first started watching it, and you see like the Undertaker, and you see these big guys that are just awe-inspiring, and that they're almost impervious.
Right.
I can't wait to see where this goes with him, um, but he'll probably end up jobbing out in a month. I don't
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
know.
I mean, one of the things that I liked with what they did is they did have him, and the Bane thing comes, not just because of how physically imposing he looks, but they had him picking up Woods and Kofi and doing backbreakers on them, and it was literally like, oh God, he's going to snap their spines over his knee. And
Yeah,
to get a little down the nerd rabbit hole there, that's what Bane did to Batman in the comic books. When he debuted, he picked up Batman, he picked up Bruce Wayne, and snapped him over his knee, and then that led to this whole storyline. But
that's a great catch too, considering that you know they're fighting the New Day, who are obvious comic book nerds. So maybe there's something with that.
maybe we'll have to see.
I don't know.
Um, well,
I'm
speaking
not
of
expecting them to come out like Batman. I'm just,
no, I mean, with that, I mean, hey, I would take it. I would totally take that. Like a Halloween Havoc, and they have the New Day come out in like Batman and Robin, and then Omos comes out in Bane's costume. Dude, I'm there for it. I'm absolutely there for it. I don't think it's gonna go that far. Like I don't think this feud is gonna go till October. But hey, if it does, and that's what we get out of it, cool.
Exactly. So
But speaking
moving
of
moving forward though, and I think this was kind of interesting because this was a weird thing when I was watching this, but it works really well talking about it podcast wise. So we just got done talking about one gigantic guy and going right over to another gigantic guy.
oh, you mean yawn?
Hmm.
Yeah. So clearly,
Big
I'm
country.
not a fan of Braun Strowman. I'm just God. There's nothing about him I like. I hate the stupid train whistle they do when he runs around the ring. That's one of the dumbest gimmicks in wrestling. Um, I mean, he's obviously talented because he's in WWE, and he could clearly beat me to a pulp if he wanted to. That said, dude, this is my bathroom break. Anytime anytime that Braun is on TV, I feel free to get up and do whatever it is that I need to do. Um, but we had Shane versus Braun in a cage match. Um, and again, Shane is another one. Shane has for years been an outstanding on-air talent. Um, he's done stuff in the ring that you just never expected he would be able to do, and he clearly has a love of the business and has a talent for the business. But man, I just do not care to see him on my TV anymore at all.
No, and the what's even worse was the build to this was terrible. Braun, you're so stupid, and uh, I put a note in there. This match should have been for the Be a Star title
Yeah,
because for years the WWE has promoted the anti-bullying thing, which is phenomenal. I think it's great. I'm not mocking that. But then they throw the storyline in there of Shane, calling Braun stupid and all that, and it's like, look, if you want to talk about an overplayed stereotype, yeah, big man stupid. There you go.
right.
I'm not a Braun fan, but come on, like, can we do a little better than this? And poor Shane, love him to death. Always have. Always appreciated the spots he can put in, and some of the work that he obviously, well, not some of the work, but a lot of the work that he puts in. Especially during like some of these WrestleMania matches he's had, and I didn't like this one at all. And it's not because of Braun necessarily, and it's not because of him. The steel cage match doesn't work for me anymore. Um, I just honestly think a traditional cage match at this point is just it's out. I think it's been, and I hate to be this way, but I think it's ruined with seeing so many great Hell in a Cell matches or the War Game style matches or the Elimination Chamber matches. You get back into traditional steel cage. There were some great ones before you and I were even around, but now especially with these two, uh, I don't know, doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement on that. And there's just this, I don't know, you get to the point where it's hard to suspend disbelief in these matches, the cage matches, because you always have somebody doing something stupid. Like, all right, so at one point, and I have the notes in here, at one point they climbed up to the top, right? Braun catches Shane. Well, Shane, first of all, Shane was over the top, sticks his stupid hand back through and starts waving bye bye stupid at Braun. Braun runs over, grabs his hand, forces him back into the ring, throws him off the top, and then proceeds to say, "Who's stupid now?" Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He ripped the fence off and then
Yes.
was able to catch him and pull him back in. But then Braun climbs up to the top and says, "Who's stupid now?" And instead of jumping out or climbing down and winning the match, he jumps back down inside.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Braun. I'm still thinking that you haven't dispelled the
Yeah.
myth that you're stupid if you're that close to winning the match and then decide to jump back in and continue it.
And that goes with my thing about traditional cage matches. And you said it right there. The flow is always so screwed up. But and again, and you said it. It's so obvious whenever someone can just climb out or walk out. But it's just not good.
Right. So, speaking of things that were stupid and didn't really work, why didn't Bailey have a match on this?
I don't know, but I certainly didn't like anything that she did, on the ramp or backstage, or I didn't get it. And I really liked her when she was doing her bit in NXT and when she first came up, and then the heel turn was pretty decent because it was something different. I don't know what this is, but whatever she's doing, it doesn't work for me. I'm
Right.
not a fan of it at all.
And I love Bailey, man. Bailey's a great wrestler. She's a great talent. She's a great, she's good on the mic. why they couldn't figure out something for her to do, unless she's injured and they're just not saying it. I don't understand how creative couldn't have something better for her to do than be this annoying backstage presence.
Yeah, anyone else give them that, not her. Don't
Right.
even put her on the show if
Right.
that's what they're going to give her.
Right.
You
I
know,
honestly, I would have rather not seen her and then had her use that going forward as like the catalyst for some rampage she goes on through the women's division, start on the Raw that airs on Monday after WrestleMania. Play it up that way. Do something. Don't just make her this joke. You've completely taken any credibility she had and thrown it out the window.
exactly. I don't know. I didn't get that with her both nights. It's terrible. But I do have some kind of random note in here, and I assume this is because this was at the spot where they did the 2020 Hall of Fame inductees. Um, I could be wrong, but I do have a thing in there about the NWO music hitting, and I'm always a sucker for that.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of brings me back. And I never watched a ton of WCW. I watched enough of it. I went back later on and watched a lot more of the documentary type stuff on it. Um, but always so cool. Love seeing those guys. Um, they all looked decent. Um, Hall. Mm.
Except for Razor, man. Oh, Scott Hall looked so bad, dude.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But yeah, I mean,
Uh,
everybody, even Hogan looked better than Scott Hall, and that's a travesty.
that's saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, then we're on to uh,
Ugh.
the bleeping bunnies. Uh,
Yeah. The first part of this was, and you know, bunnies. Put a bunch of bunnies out there, pal. The audience is gonna love it.
that's
Uh,
such good shit, pal.
uh,
Like,
I don't,
yeah,
I don't understand the
the
first part of that.
I understand. Well, no, I mean, I get it because it was supposed to be like a live performance of "Hey Ho," "Hey Wait," "Hey Hey," "Hop Hop," or whatever the hell the Miz and Morrison's Bad Bunny joke song was, his parody
Right.
song. But good God, man, that was freaking. Oh God, it was terrible.
That part was atrocious. Now, however, you and I went back and forth with a little bit on this, talking about you know why is he Bad Bunny even here? And yeah, he brings people out, the outside eyes of WWE. And I kind of reflected upon this part because I realized that this is the first WrestleMania that was on Peacock. So you have what I assume is a much wider audience base, from people that's had subscribed to Peacock just for that content, and they're like, "Oh, WrestleMania, I'm gonna check that out. I haven't watched that since Saturday Night's Main Event in 1991." You know, and then it's like Bad Bunny. It's like they maybe you kind of cross into different different things. It's like, um, I don't know. It's like people that maybe haven't had their eyes on the product in a while, and maybe fans of his. You and I've kind of talked about that before. That maybe there isn't a huge cross section of that fan base, but he does bring those outside eyes. I'm not a fan of his music. Not necessarily a fan of him or the angle, but I do see it. I do understand it because this is something that they do almost every year. This
Right,
isn't new. This is just the 2021 version of whatever it was with Pete Rose or anyone else.
right. Machine Gun Kelly.
Exactly. So I do believe though that I know that they've had what talks about doing what NXT India and NXT Japan. I know COVID and whatnot has kind of derailed some of that for now, but I would think that this could be a good setup for building up Latin America, South America, Mexico, however. And I think his presence does a lot to kind of broaden that audience too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Honestly, man, to get into this match, he did a great job.
He did a great job, and I was, the more I watch it, I was like, I'm kind of impressed here that he's put in the work to learn some of these crazy maneuvers that you know only these guys do. And my goodness,
Right.
that's
And dude, and it's even little stuff like he did little stuff right. He held the friggin' tag rope.
yeah, yeah. I
Nobody holds the tag rope.
Yeah, no, I put a thing on here. I'll give him credit. He didn't phone it in, you
Right.
know, at all. He tried, and he tried, and it went off well.
Yeah.
I'd go as far as to say that he did better than some actual wrestlers on some regular TV shows.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I was concerned about with going into the match was, these are guys, he's in there wrestling with guys that have done this their entire, adult lives. They've been doing this since they were teenagers. They've been, this has been their career. And it was one of those things where it was hard for me to watch guys that had been doing that get knocked around by this guy that came in from, making records and decided that he wanted to be a wrestler for a couple days. But he showed that that's not the whole case. Like he actually could hold his own. And I don't think, as much as I was worried about it taken away from them, as much as I was worried about it making them look weak, it didn't. It didn't make them look weak at all. It made them look like they had trouble with a competent opponent.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Um, Again, going back into this, I'm not a fan of seeing him there for exactly what you just said. You have credible people, and obviously ones that are kind of losing a spot to this random music artist. But the same sense, extra eyes on the product, and he did really well. I do have a couple things. We've got a couple funny comments here.
Yeah.
I was also
I'm gonna I'm gonna pause you for a second, Tom. I gotta pause the recording. Lily needs to go out. She's barking at me. So
I got you. Cool.
all
A couple notes I thought were kind of funny. So I was also texting Kyler, our friend Kyler, during this as well, and he sends me a message that says John Morrison has the Becky Lynch haircut. It just made me laugh because it was so true.
dude, yeah. And so that led me into, he's calling himself Johnny Drip Drip right now. And it sounds like a freaking STD. But
Yeah,
then, going from John Morrison to Becky Lynch, if Becky Lynch started calling herself Becky Drip Drip, that just sounds X-rated. So, you know,
it's so good.
hopefully they don't when she comes back, which I thought was going to happen, during the weekend, but spoiler alert, it did not.
Yeah.
Um, I was hoping she would come back, and I was just hoping that they wouldn't have any kind of crossover and have that happen, like the what was the one, the submission sorority, where WWE didn't look that up, and they started calling Paige
Oh
Becky
yeah.
submission sorority, and then come
Ah,
to find out that
yeah.
that's actually like a porn site.
Yeah. I remember I forgot about that. Yeah. Boy, I swear.
Which led to the great name, the PCB, because you know that's so cool and catchy.
Panama City Beach.
Yeah, right.
But so after the Bad Bunny match, which okay, fine, uh, that was what it was, and it was a lot more impressive than I thought it was going to be. Um, you know, before we jump into the main event of night one, you'd have wrote about this, and they aired what, two or three of these, the Joe Average commercials.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I feel like this is the only reason we should even have the 24/7 title anymore. These were entertaining as hell to me for some reason.
And well, I'll tell you why. So Joe Average, um, whose ring name now is like Rick Boogas, I don't know, whatever. But he debuted in NXT. You have to look this up. February of 2019, and if you've not seen it, it might be the greatest like 6 or 7 minutes of WWE television history.
For real.
It is fantastic.
Okay.
Wrestles he wrestles Drew Gulak, but I don't know that it's a wrestling match as it's like watching a rock show. It's incredible because it was so different. Um, it's funny because I've actually gone back and watched it like 3 or 4 times since. He's one of my favorites, and
Okay.
why he doesn't have a bigger spot anywhere is beyond me. But I was so happy to see him in those as Joe Average because I was like, oh my god, it's Eric Bugenhagen.
And you were the only one aside from his mother who said that.
Yeah.
But no, man, like, yeah, he looks like he's got, he's got the look. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that match now because I love Drew Gulak. So
Oh, and the cool thing with Eric is, or Rick Boogiz, whatever his, he's a metalhead, so he plays some like killer guitar too.
really,
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I think that's his Twitter handle. It's like Metalhead Beefcake or something. He's
Jesus Christ.
great. He's great. He's one of those like deep cuts on NXT, and I really didn't watch a whole lot the last year, so I don't know if he shows up here and there, but I would follow his run in 19 to see, if he would show back up on TV, and it wasn't much,
Hmm.
but he was doing a lot of live events.
Okay. All right.
So
So we'll skip the other note that I had in there about the commercials because I've got a whole nother we've got a whole nother show that we're going to do on games. The other commercial was WWE 2K22. But we'll skip that one for now because
yeah, yeah.
we've got a
Let's
whole
let's put that off on another one. I think that's a good thing to talk about, though.
yeah, absolutely. So let's get into the main event of night one, which was Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, and holy crap, what a match!
Oh yes. You know, been a fan of both for, ever since they both, they basically showed up in NXT. My goodness, that was incredible. Um, I certainly wasn't, you know, um, I knew going into it that I was going to get something great, and not just because of Sasha Banks or not just because of Bianca Belair, but the two of them were just so talented that I knew that they could just make something seem simple times 10 and make it just amazing. And that was the entire match.
Oh, absolutely, man! It was from start to finish, just edge of your seat, just an awesome match. I loved it. I don't think we could have asked for a better match between the two of them. I don't think that there was a better match on the card. I
No,
think they
no,
they were deserved of that main event status. It was the best show or best match of the night.
yeah. On night one, I'll give it, and just because of um, the fact that there was a title, a title change, if you will, too. I'll give it the edge over the Rollins Cesaro match, just on the sheer fact that it was just as entertaining, it was just as hard hitting, and wow, it was incredible. And I think you had a note on here too,
Oh yeah, man.
toward the end about the hair slap. It's like, wow, that was loud. But
Well,
then that pop when she won the match. Wow.
yeah, and
Uh,
there were
uh,
just moves throughout, man, that were mind blowing. The where Bianca Belair had the roll through and then picks Sasha up, presses her over her head, and walks her back up the stairs and into the ring. Like, obviously women are lighter than men. And so it's a little bit, I don't want to say easier for that to, for the women to do that than the men, but it, it doesn't matter because it was incredible. And it's not something that I would say probably 95% of the talent on the roster couldn't do that. Bianca is just such an incredible athlete and such an incredible wrestler. And good God, she deserved it, man. That was a fantastic match by both of them. The hair whip, Jesus,
oh, yeah.
that hurt me.
Yeah, yeah. And that's been a fun move to watch ever since her time in NXT. just because it was different,
Right.
But that was certainly the loudest it's ever been.
Well, and you could
So
see the lash on Sasha's side. Like she was legit cut from that.
yeah,
Like that was, dude, that was bad. Bad in a good way. It was holy crap. I would not want to feel that.
no, no, no. But very, very great finish to, you know, there was a lot of things on night one that I could take it or leave it, with Bad Bunny and just some of the goofiness there, and then of course the Braun and Shane stuff and those things. But you had a lot of quality wrestling there. I was not disappointed. I think night one was pretty good.
Yeah, night one was good. Full disclosure, night one was the only night that I was able to watch, completely with my head in it completely because I had to work Sunday night. So Sunday night, night two of WrestleMania, I we took notes, we did the same thing. And somehow I ended up with more notes. I don't know if it was because I was so my attention was so fragmented or what, but man, night two was pretty good too.
Yeah, yeah, and you had a note on here about the Ashland Craft who did America the Beautiful. Now, I did not see this, so I have no frame of reference. I didn't go back and watch that. Sorry.
No, hey, listen, man. All I'm saying, I didn't know who Ashland Craft was beforehand. I had heard of BB Rexa. Ashland Craft did a great job. I'm gonna give the edge to BB Rexa, and maybe that's partially because of what my eyes were telling me. Um,
Fair enough.
He was certainly talented, absolutely talented, did a great job. And this is just me being a horrible, toxic male. But let's get into the open. So the open was Titus and Hogan in pirate gear, which was fantastic. I
Oh yeah, way
loved
better
the
than
open.
night one.
Yeah. And then we went right into one of the matches I was really looking forward to, which was Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Um, and of course, the Fiend had been walking around looking like a melted candle, um, until he somehow was reborn. Um, one of the one of the notes that I'd put down in here is when Randy was walking down to the ring, he was being very deliberate and he was wiping his boots a lot. And I was wondering because it had rained in Tampa earlier that day too, and I was wondering if he wasn't just trying to make sure he didn't replicate Mandy Rose falling. Um,
That's very possible, or that was a complete dig at her.
Right. Like, I
Knowing
don't know,
him.
man, but he was like super deliberate about it. And I'm like, oh, dude, that's terrible. Um, but yeah, getting into the match, I mean, it was a cool entrance. Alexa Bliss, so very creepy in this role.
Yeah, I kind of dig it. You know, really excited to kind of see where this goes forward with her because you know uh, can't really say I've been a huge fan of this some of the stuff she's done with Bray or the Fiend, whatever. It's been a little just not my cup of tea. I'll reference Bischoff again. We said it's like a buffet. Um, this is a dish that I'm not necessarily going to go for, but the creepy thing, I kind of like this. Kind of like where this is going.
See, now I get going back to the buffet analogy. This is right up my alley. This is
Yeah, yeah.
what I'm here for this. And I thought that the entrance was awesome. Um, so Alexa comes down. There's a giant Jack in the Box sitting there with a pentagram on it, and she turns the handle, and obviously, who pops out of the top. It's the Fiend, and he doesn't have a melty candle face anymore. He's been reborn. Um, and you would put a note in here about how they should have started this one.
Yeah, I firmly believe that he pops out of that box. Randy should just climbed it and RKO'd him right off the stop.
You know, no, and I thought you were going to say something like he should have dropped something in the box, like a monster or something like that.
Well, he could have done that too, knowing Orton. That's not
Yeah,
out of the realm of possibility.
but I,
Um,
I was kind of surprised it wasn't a squash, and I actually learned afterwards. So this was it was an okay match. I was disappointed. Um, but I felt like if you were really trying to make somebody look strong and you really wanted to make this a meaningful match, that the Fiend comes out, he's reborn, he just obliterates Randy, and then you move on.
Yeah, the only thing this match does is it does boost Alexa Bliss um, toward the with the finish of this. Um, I've seen the interpretation of it was a turn on the Fiend. Um, I don't know that I necessarily. I don't know that I see that. And they say the turn on the Fiend because Orton quick RKO then over with. But I don't see it that way necessarily. I kind of see it as, and you kind of mentioned this, Sister Abigail.
Yeah, so first of all, couple notes about the match itself. At one point, they referred to the Jack in the Box as a box-like structure, which made me
Yeah, I
laugh.
forgot about
Which
that.
was bad
Yes.
because I was at work and I'm sitting there and I'm just giggling to myself like an idiot, and they're looking at me like, "What the hell is wrong with him?" And I was like, "Oh, wrestling," and they're like, "Oh, okay," and then they didn't talk to me the rest of the night. Um, but no, that, and then you'd put the note about the red lighting, which
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
I don't, and that's one thing. Um, I went to a Raw 3 years ago or so. I don't know when it was, and in the commercial time, it really reminded me of the same thing. So they've turned on the lighting, and I mean it's not red, but it's kind of got the red hue because of the big Raw signs, and it sort of reminds me of, and I don't know, I don't really like it. It just, yeah, I get it because it's dark and it's the Fiend and it's supposed to be that way, but I understand the gimmick, but it just, again, it doesn't do it for me. You know,
Yeah, I
um,
feel like it's got to be hard for the people in the stadium, and it's so weird to say that again, something we've completely glossed over is the fact that there were actually people there.
yeah, like 40,000 people there.
Which,
So
good God, was that a
mhm.
welcome thing to see people back in the stands, and I can't wait till we can get back to some semblance of normal and have that at every show going forward.
Yes, yes, agreed. Agreed.
But
That was cool. That was great to see. Just that too. But yeah, no, the red lighting there doesn't do it for me. You know, I just not a fan of that
yeah.
at all.
So then the way this ends is Alexa Bliss looking super duper strange with some kind of, it looked like a crown of thorns, like from the Bible when Jesus was crucified and they put the crown of thorns on him. It looked like that, but it must have had these lines coming up to it that pumped out black liquid. Uh and that was streaming down her face, and she's sitting with her legs crossed on top of the box, and there's been so much biblical reference made to it and stuff, and it's been really weird, that I've seen people putting online, and Bray himself, or the Fiend himself, actually posted a picture on Twitter of Samson and Delilah.
Mm.
And so, he always posts weird stuff on or on Twitter, and people are reading into that, and who knows? I mean, maybe it's been answered by now because Raw's just about over. We obviously aren't watching, but maybe they answered that. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But what happens is she's sitting up there. It distracts the Fiend. Randy hits an RKO, wins the match, takes off, and that's that. So now, because I'm you know, a giant nerd, I go on the dirt sheets and I go on the websites, and apparently the original finish was for Bray to go over, and then Randy was going to take time off, and they were going to write him off of TV for a while with that match.
Hmm.
But then at the last minute, Vince and Bruce Pritchard, in their infinite wisdom, changed the finish.
Yeah, and it's weird. And I think the reason why I was so taken aback by the one RKO finish is because here you have a guy that just months ago, it took like a toolbox to the head like 15 times. to, to put him
Right.
down. And the night before in the Braun and Shane match, they bring out the same toolbox. And it's like, uh, so I realize that you're still calling back to that, realize completely different storyline, completely different thing. But then it's like, okay, one RKO, done.
Right. It just doesn't make any sense when you're trying to build this guy as some inhuman demon monster thing to have him be able to be taken out by one RKO just because he gets distracted. It's dumb. It's
Exactly.
it makes no sense. It completely deflates the character, takes away any strength that they might have garnered. They look weak as hell, and that is not what you that's not what you should be doing with this unstoppable monster of a character.
No, no, not at all. Um, but you know, I won't say anything because I watched part of Raw, and so
Oh,
I got to see some of what happened,
okay.
but we won't talk about it here because this is a WrestleMania show.
Okay.
Um, so moving forward though, real quick note: Bischoff was on screen, and again, anyone that listens to this will find that I'm like, again, just a huge fan. So I was happy to see him there. It makes sense. 2021 induction
Yeah.
into the
You
Hall
gotta
of
love
Fame.
Easy E.
Yeah. So, but moves to the next match, and this would be something we alluded to earlier with the Tamina and Natalia versus Nia Jackson, Shayna Baszler, and it was a good match. A couple sloppy spots, but what did you think?
I thought it was a good match. I think that they're that those two teams make up a great mix. They have great chemistry in the ring. Um, I think that they're especially for Natty and Tamina being together for such a short time. Um, I feel like they've really gelled, and obviously they must be putting in the work, off TV and everything. Um, but I think that that's a good rivalry, and I'm interested to see where this goes. There were a couple, like you said, there were a couple little sloppy areas, but you know, it is what it is. I I just I wish there would have been a callback, and I'm gonna say this every time Nia Jax is in the ring now. I want there to be a callback to my hole because that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in wrestling ever in my entire life, and I'll never not laugh at it.
Yeah,
Um,
that was great, and I would
but
love to. Yeah, I love them to to come back to that too because it was so good. It was so funny. But this match overall, good match. I can't say it was, um, certainly my favorite of either night. But I will say, here's a great thing about it: another great solid match. Um, and I go back to saying this: the tag team turmoil thing that came up to this again, I like seeing the different teams and I love seeing the Riot Squad and that. And then the build with the little bit of the build that we got with Tamina and Natalia. But I just really wish I would have seen more of a build just for those two for this particular match.
right.
That's just my personal opinion. But again, we've already discussed that. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's a good. I really wish. I understand the reason why you didn't have Tamina and Natty win, being the new tag team on the block. Um, I personally would have liked to see them win, give Natty another WrestleMania moment. Um, but I feel like this builds up some steam for them, and hopefully it culminates in a really good rivalry for that for the women's tag team titles that can go on for a little bit.
Right.
Um, they teased for so long that Shayna and Nia were going to break up, and looks like they're not. So good because they need strong tag teams. Just like I mean, the men's division, I've kind of given up on any tag team sticking around except for the New Day. Um, but because they seem to kill them. Hopefully, they don't replicate that mistake with the women's division.
Exactly. No, solid match. And like I said, yeah, hopefully they don't screw this up, but they will.
Oh, they will
Um,
because
yeah.
it's
So
the E, man. That's what
yeah.
they do.
So it moves into our next match, though, of two of my personal favorites. Um,
Yes.
Kevin Steen and El Generico. Uh, now these
No,
guys have.
listen,
Uh,
El Generico is gone.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. That's right.
Yes, yes. El
But
Generico's gone. Don't forget.
that's
And
right. That's right.
he and Sami Zayn were not the same person.
That's right. Okay, I forgot about that.
No, no, no. Yeah,
Though
don't.
these two guys have been around the block for years and years and years. I've seen, you have too. Uh, some of their, like, just, gosh, they can work together, probably almost better than any other two right now in the WWE. And then they have to interject it with Logan Paul.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. This was, you know, as excited as I was for the Fiend and for the Randy Orton match, this was the match that I really wanted to see and that I really wanted to concentrate on and that I was really looking forward to until they threw Logan Paul in there.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we have to have a YouTube celebrity involved in WrestleMania, but they did it. It is what it is. Um, I think the story is, I guess it made sense for the storyline where for those who haven't been really paying attention, Sami Zayn has been saying that there's a conspiracy against him to keep him down, and that's why he lost the IC title and this whole big thing. And he enlisted Logan Paul to help him spread his message about this to the world. Um, so okay, I get it; it makes sense, but it wasn't my favorite storyline. That said, storyline to me, when you're throwing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a ring, storyline is secondary to the action that's actually going to take place in the ring or what should take place in the ring. Um,
Right.
Overall, I thought it was a good, thought it was a good match. I don't feel like they gave them the time that they deserved, and I feel like shoehorning Paul in there just it took away from it, man. They didn't let Sammy and Kevin be Sammy and Kevin.
No, that, it's funny. Outside of the Logan Paul shenanigans, the funny thing was watching that match. It's like playing a video game, and you always hit the strong move button, because that's all they were doing is power move after power move.
Right.
Like the entire match, it was just like one upsmanship, and they're just like hitting like these insane, like, their power moves basically,
Right.
and they just did it over and over again. At one point, Kevin got dropped on his neck after he had like two brain busters in a row, and the first one looked, ugh, I didn't like it. Um, not again, nothing against Sammy or Kevin
Right,
on
right,
that,
right,
but
right.
just not, didn't look good. Um, but the yeah, I would have liked to see 10 more minutes on that match.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, and that's the thing. And I don't put any blame on Kevin or Sammy on this one. I feel like they were trying to get out there and put on the best show they could with the limited amount of time that they gave them.
right, right.
And I think that they did that, but I think if they were given more time, the match would have been 10 times better than it was. And especially, again, if they didn't have to shoehorn Logan Paul in there. I was glad that Kevin Owens gave him a stunner.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Wow, hell, I was too. I just don't like him in there. I will say this though, anything though, it's so cool to see those two get a match at a WrestleMania.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I'm here for anytime they want to put Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on my TV together. I'm for it. I mean, it could be hell, put them in a bra and panties match. I don't even care. Dude, I'd watch it. I'd watch it. I mean, I'd have strange feelings during it, but I'd watch it.
Yeah, it's always good to see those guys, and yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, they're on TV. I'm watching it, and yeah, I was really, that was probably the match I was looking most forward to. Didn't disappoint, but the Logan Paul stuff just didn't help.
Right.
But then it moved into this really bizarre segment um, with Matt Riddle and the Great Khali, and couldn't quite figure out what happened until good old Mr. Monday Night showed up.
Thank God. The savior.
The exchange between Rob and Riddle, wow, it was so good, so good.
RVD rolling papers, baby.
And RVD, I mean, I believe he's what 50 now. Well, it looks like he could still go.
Yeah,
So kind of
well,
wish
he
they would have.
was. He was still going in TNA.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, his contract just ended with TNA.
That's right. Yeah. Now I
So,
kind of wish he would have another match here in the WWE, but
dude, I would love to see either a tag team or a program between Riddle and RVD.
yeah, yeah, that would be fantastic. Now, you know me, I've been a Rob fan for many, 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 many years, and always glad to see him out there. Um, and that little segment last night was fantastic. So, and it was cool to see the Great Khali too. And I realized that both of those guys were going to the Hall, but you know, um, Khali is one of those. Even though he was never the best wrestler or whatever, best worker, uh, he was one of those interesting people to see in the ring just because he was so big,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But so anyway, that kind of leads into the Riddle and Sheamus match. Um, we don't have a whole lot of notes on this. It was a pretty hard hitting match. Riddle get like basically kicked in the mouth at one point, and that's what Uh, that was like, kind of like the big takeaway on this was the Sheamus winning this, and I kind of read up on this, kind of like you, big nerd, follow the sites. The whole reason why uh, Riddle lost that title and went over to Sheamus was originally the title was supposed to be for Keith Lee.
Oh,
And Keith Lee was supposed to have a run with it until whatever happened there. So it
COVID.
goes to, yeah, I really don't know.
Mia Yim had COVID, and that's his fiance, and so
Right.
she had COVID. He ended up. I don't know if he ended up getting it or if he ended up just out of precaution. They kept him out. But yeah,
But
that's why.
yeah, so that the whole time Riddle was never supposed to be champion. That was supposed to be Keith Lee. So Riddle was just kind of like a placeholder champion, from what my understanding is. Now, why Sheamus has it, I don't know. But I guess because it gives Sheamus something to do, and he is, you know, still a pretty famous wrestler. So,
Well,
you know,
Sheamus was involved with an angle between Drew McIntyre, Keith Lee, and himself. Um,
that's right. Yeah,
Earlier in the year. So this may be setting up Keith Lee to return to feud with Sheamus for it.
very could. Yeah, that very well could be. That makes sense now. Um, So moving forward, though,
Yeah,
uh,
so
you
I didn't get to see much of that match. I saw the modified brogue kick that drew blood. But then we lead into I had to put the note in there because
yeah, you
I
want to
do
talk
not
about
like
that?
I do not like Baron Corbin. Um, I mean he's which is good because he's a heel
Right.
and so he's doing his job. He's a good heel. I don't like him, but the Snickers commercial might have made me like him a little bit because he's supposed to look. He's like in the dressing room and he's like, the gloves fit good, but I don't think the rest fit. And he comes out and he's like, yeah, I'm supposed to be a biker. And they had him dressed up in like a cyclist's outfit. And the lady goes, "Oh, it's because of the reflectors." And she goes over and turns.
Yeah, she turns them on. Yeah,
I
it was
I
good.
was dying. I was
That was a
dying.
great. That was funny. It was a good commercial. Yeah, I don't like him either, but that was funny.
Um, but back to the actual wrestling. So next was the Nigerian drum match, and this was between our boy Big E Langston. Oh wait, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, we're not allowed to say Langston anymore, are we?
No, no.
So it's Big E, Mister Three Ain't Enough Man, Give Me Five, and Apollo Cruz, who apparently has recently discovered that he is actually of Nigerian descent, and
Yeah, and I wrote on here, and I thought, okay, maybe this is a callback to his previous character, Uha Nation, and other people apparently had the same thought. But here's the thing: I had never really done my homework because I had seen him wrestle prior to, but I never saw any promo work, and he'd never used an accent.
Yeah, so this
So
is like
it's
reverse
completely
Kofi
different.
Kingston. He went
Exactly.
from not having an accent to all of a sudden having an accent, and it sounds like he's trying to imitate Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther. Um,
Which would make sense given the type of match that they threw them in.
right. Which
I
Nigerian drum match, which they never really explained. Basically, it was like a no holds barred match, I guess. Um, this was another match that I was super excited for. It's two of the biggest most biggest most muscular athletic dudes in the federation, and good God, can they go, man? They can do moves that you wouldn't think that people their size should be able to do. Um,
Oh yeah. You and I have been fans of Big E for a long time, and I'm hoping at some point that he gets his world title, um, big world title runs, because he's certainly charismatic, amazing on the mic, and his in-ring work is almost second to none. So he's more than ready for that. And then you have a note on here. It was a good match until another, Gigantor, whatever, whoever, Avocado, was that
it,
his name?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to pronounce it because I didn't really pay attention to Raw Underground, but it was Dabakato or Dabakato. I'm gonna say avocado.
Avocado.
Oh no, I'm not gonna say avocado because if he somehow figures out where I live and he comes to my house, he's gonna beat the shit out of me. So I'm gonna give him all the respect in the world and call him Dabakato. He's from Raw Underground, which was that ill-fated segment on Raw that Shane McMahon ran that was part strip club, part fight club. Um, and I don't know what his name is going to be now in this angle, but that's who that was. So he comes out, he's going to win the match, and Dabakato comes out and just completely wrecks him and puts Apollo Crews on him, and Apollo Crews is your new Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, you know, this match did not need that, just because you have two supremely talented individuals. And again, this whole WrestleMania, you have like Cesaro and Rollins, and Owens and Zayn. Yeah, you have with Belair and Banks. You have this theme of these incredible people going against each other, and then you screw this up with Avocado.
Right.
That's how I took it. I actually missed the finish, but then I didn't go back and watch, but I actually read up on it, and it figures. It's another way to get another one of Vince's big guys, big monsters, some time, and it's like, I don't know. You're just taken away from Big E and Apollo Crews to me. So
Right.
so moving on, we both kind of noted this. They had this like random ghost ship effect.
Yeah.
That was cool. It
That was really,
reminded me of Disney World.
yeah. Pirates.
Yeah. It was really really cool. I I'm always a sucker for cool graphics, and so that was certainly one there. But then this is when we got to our Hall of Fame class of 2021 stuff. Again, great to see RVD and Bischoff going in. And then, the mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee gets inducted.
Yeah. With
Kane, which is awesome.
with Ozzy Osbourne, no less.
Yeah. And I thought about this, and because they ran several commercials throughout WrestleMania, I really think if Kane's going in this year and Taker wasn't on this year's, Taker's going in 22. And
Yeah,
it's
he's got.
it's in Texas. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, he's
um,
got to, man. That's just they're gonna do that.
but overall, this was such a strong Hall of Fame class. Um, you have just so many talented people. The only thing I felt kind of bad for was the guy that won the Warrior Award.
Yeah.
Like that poor guy, like got no audience reaction whatsoever.
No.
It's
That's bad.
like poor Rich Herring's been working for Vince McMahon for like 50 plus years. The guy has put up with Vince's crap for that long, and he gets the Warrior Award, and everyone's like,
I was
Who
like,
are you?
"Boo."
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it was like, yeah. I'm just what I'm kind of upset about is that Molly Holly got inducted into the hall without fans because I really wanted the Hurricane to induct her as Mighty Molly.
yes, yeah, yeah.
But
That's the way that should have been. But I'm glad she was there because she was instrumental in that resurgence, um, of real women's wrestling back in the Attitude Era and beyond
right.
days. So um,
Speaking of women, women's wrestling, the next match was an awesome match, one that I was
oh
definitely looking
yes,
forward to too. We had Rhea Ripley versus Asuka, and Asuka is one of my favorite female wrestlers of all time. Um, Absolutely love her. You know, Rhea Ripley looks like she's the future, or at least part of a very large part, no pun intended, of the future of women's wrestling.
yeah.
She towers over everybody in that division. Um, aside from like your Nia Jax and your Tamina, um, who I hear nobody's Mina. That was bad.
No,
That was bad. I feel bad.
no,
Um,
I gave it to you though. That's
yeah,
good.
I appreciate it. But but yeah, man, like this to me was going to be one of the best matches on the card. And I liked it.
Yeah, it was good. I completely agree. Ripley, 24 there. It's ridiculous. I've been a fan. First saw her. I think it was the first Mae Young Classic, and she looked completely different. Like she wasn't all, like with the spikes and the craziness, but just always like a fan of her work.
Dude, and
But
she's jacked, man.
yeah, yeah, and Asuka's been, ever since her just like that long run in NXT, kind of undefeated, just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So cool to see these two again. And again, like I said before, it kind of goes with this recurring theme of place these really strong people together. And this was another instance of that. Um, you made a comment on here, you know, yeah, best one of the best matches in the overall card, which is exactly true. Um, I don't know that it got the attention or the time necessarily that they deserved. Um, but man, they hit on each other quite a bit. The um, the only thing that I kind of wondered here was, how's this finish? And you made an interesting comment here. Um, you know, Title change.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen a lot, man. A lot of title changes on this show. And uh, I feel like it- it's almost almost too many.
Yeah, it was weird. I I always expect there to be title changes at Mania. That's just part of it because you kind of had to hit the reset button between Mania and then like the Raw after Mania and all that mess, moving forward into the summertime. And it just seemed like I agree. It's like, well, every time we have a title match, it's like, oh, someone's gonna walk out with it that you know didn't have it before, or it just changes hands.
Right.
um it was interesting.
And that, I mean, that's the perfect setup for, well, after another Bailey moment, which,
Ugh.
I mean, the only thing it got us was that John Cena comment with with the Bellas, which, dude, I'm not sure if that wasn't a real slap.
Yeah, well, she comes out again and does that stuff, and I'm like, whatever, just not into it. And then says the John Cena thing, and I was like, oh my god, like that was that was that was pretty wild. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, to set this up, so Titus and Hogan come back out and they're talking, and Bailey comes out and she's all pissy because she hasn't been getting the recognition she deserves, and which, dude, honestly, I agree with. Um, but it's played into her role for this night, and then she gets interrupted by the Bellas music. So Nikki and Brie come out, and she goes, "What are you guys doing here?" Now, obviously, they just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, so we know why they're there. They were part of that class. Well, she goes, "What are you doing here? John Cena's not even here." And friggin' Nikki just hauls off, and again, I'm sure it was kayfabe, but I don't know, man. That might have been might have been a little realism in that one.
Yeah,
Um,
there was a little extra on that one.
but that brings us into the main event, which was Edge versus Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, um, Paul Heyman's new dude. So just a little background on this, so I can so I don't have to hide my bias. Uh, we're allowed, this week is telecommunicator week at my work, well, nationally. So we're able to wear civilian clothes. Well, I had my maroon Daniel Bryan shirt on and my powder blue Philly shirt because they go together. But I had my Philly shirt over my Daniel Bryan, or my Phillies jersey over my Daniel Bryan shirt. So who I was rooting for in this one.
Was that the no 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 one or the yes 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 one?
I didn't get the no 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 one. I should have, but I got the yes 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 one.
Okay, okay.
Trying to get rid of the negativity.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha, I gotcha. Hey, stay positive.
Yeah,
Now, Edge's entrance on this was one of the better entrances I've ever seen,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
mainly because it was so over the top with fireworks, and that was fantastic. Now, I agree again. Yeah, we've seen some cool stuff with the Undertaker. I'm not saying that this was better than any of that, but for the night, he had the best entrance.
Yeah,
Um, it was a great. So that was so cool. Uh, but this match started off like, ugh,
yeah, man.
didn't like the way it started. It was like they're all down on the ground. There's been interference left and right. I just wasn't a fan of that.
And honestly, so here's the thing. I'm a fan of Roman Reigns, the human being. Um, I think I'm a fan of him being in WWE. I'm not necessarily a fan of him as far as being the champion. Um, I feel like he's a good heel. I feel like he does good work, but just like his punches are terrible. Obviously, again, he's in WWE. I'm sitting here making a podcast, so he's clearly more talented than me. But just some of the moves he makes, some of the stuff he does, it just rubs me the wrong way. I don't really dig him in this match. I don't think he should have gone over. I thought Edge should have gone over. I thought Daniel Bryan should have gone over. Anybody but him. Um, but it makes sense. The finish made sense.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. I always think with Reigns, almost like when John Cena debuted, and I didn't care for Cena when he first came up at all. I just was not a fan. But then as time went on, I really understood and respected like his work. The five moves of doom kind of really wasn't true. He really could do some interesting things, and he was dynamite on the mic, and that's what made him special. He had the mic skills. The one thing with Reigns is that, yeah, he's not quite the five moves of doom. He's close. Um, he, oh yeah, let's do the Samoan drop, and let's do the Superman punch, and let's do the spear. He does put the work in. Does not have the mic skills even to this day, and that's why Paul's with him.
Right.
Um, which obviously, I'm sucking for Paul Heyman anytime, but this is the most that I've liked his character. But a lot of that's because Paul's with him. You know,
Exactly.
uh, Otherwise, if he's not with him, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the nice thing is I feel like it's revitalized Jey Uso. Um, and Paul being involved always uh, makes me a fan. But
right,
if you were to take Paul Heyman away from Roman Reigns, I'm not necessarily lining up to see Roman Reigns anymore.
No, and in my head, I'm thinking as I'm watching this, and I obviously, it makes sense storyline wise for Reigns to go over, but before the match finishes, because of the style that is, and no disqualification, I'm thinking at some point Lesnar's going to run out, you know,
Right,
because that is just what happens at WrestleMania, something goofy, and obviously it didn't happen,
right.
and I'm glad it didn't happen because as much as I hate to say it, this makes sense moving forward. And you alluded to this, and I can't remember if we talked about this during a podcast or just you and I having a conversation. Um, but this obviously kind of, moves Daniel Bryan and Edge to have kind of a program themselves moving into like SummerSlam season.
Right, and that's the silver lining that I have from this one is, all right, cool. We've got the animosity now between Daniel Bryan and Edge because Edge feels like Daniel Bryan interfered and forced his way into the match. Similar to what if we look at WrestleMania from a few years ago when Ronda Rousey and Charlotte and Becky Lynch had their match, and Becky Lynch was pissed off at Charlotte for weaseling her way into the title picture and the title match. So it's kind of almost a rehash of that, but I feel like it's going to set up this Daniel Bryan versus Edge feud to go forward from here, going and possibly with the blow off being at SummerSlam, as long as they can both maintain their health and if that's what I don't know how long Edge plans on sticking around this tour. I don't know, what any of their plans are, obviously.
Right.
But if he's sticking around for a while, that would make sense.
Yeah. In my head, and again, I remember I also thought Lesnar was going to show up last night, and that didn't happen. Um, but in my mind, if this Daniel Bryan and Edge thing, comes to fruition, I can see it working at SummerSlam. I can see Daniel Bryan leaving at SummerSlam. I can see Edge lasting until next WrestleMania, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but we'll see. That wraps up WrestleMania, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is our WrestleMania recap. Overall, I thought it was a good show. I'm still not really a fan of the two nights. Um, I mean, it helps get a lot more people involved, but dude, it's a lot of wrestling, and I love wrestling. You love wrestling, but holy crap, it's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
Snyder Cut on steroids.
yeah. It really is. And I caught a bit of Raw tonight, but um, I don't want to say anything on that. But again, think about all those hours of 3 days in a row.
Right, right. And with the
um,
SmackDown, the WrestleMania SmackDown leading up to it, the NXT Stand and Deliver that was what, 2 nights, 3 nights, like we've had a good like 9 straight days of wrestling. So it gets a little tough.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's it's funny. I always love this time of year with it because there's so much of it, and then it's like I don't know if I could stand to watch all of it. So
Yeah.
but I think that wraps that up. But let's uh, let's let's frame up our next one. We're gonna do video games.
Yeah, I've got some good notes. You had brought up some good ideas as far as some stuff we should do, talking about some retro games and maybe some forgotten games or games that people never really played before and stuff like that. And man, I kind of went off the deep end with it. I've got a ton of stuff planned. So we'll have to and even some NFL 2K5 updates
Yes, yes,
because I
yes.
know
We need
everybody's on the
those.
edge of their seat with that, waiting to find out what kind of stupid stuff I found.
But
Uh,
yeah, we'll put our heads together on how we do a video game episode. Yeah, I threw an idea out there that was like, hey, let's talk about stuff that some of these games that maybe you and I played that were not popular or just not common or just like, oh yeah, I played that 20 years ago. It was awesome, but I just haven't thought about it since.
right.
I thought it'd be cool to kind of revisit.
Yeah, man. So,
So
all
we'll do
right,
that
well,
on the
guys,
next one.
until next time, we have been the Noise Brigade. Thank you for listening and have a good one.
Take care.